Hey there, happy coders, and welcome to another holiday edition of these code along videos that I've been doing. Normally what I do is I just kind of hang out for an hour or so and I code whatever project of the day has come to mind. Lately I've been doing a bunch of holiday themed ones. It's towards the end of December, and even though I live in California and it doesn't snow here, I'm still kind of in the holiday spirit. So I've done a few of these, and I think it's kind of a fun thing to do to sort of mix kind of non-coding ideas with coding. So it's kind of why I like exploring this space of kind of cozy different things that you can do with code. So today what I'm thinking of doing is actually kind of playing with an old example that I did, I don't even know, I think earlier this year or maybe even before that. I don't remember when I do stuff. But it's this example, which shows an animation of points falling from the top. So the way this code works, and it's relatively short. I don't want to say it's simple because nothing is simple, but it's 23 lines long, counting white space. And what it does is it uses an array of numbers, and it increases the numbers in that array. It increases each element in that array and draws a point at each element where the element, like the x value of the canvas, is the array index, and draws a point kind of randomly and then adds a random number to them and resets them. So you get this animation that, I don't know, sort of looks like snow. It's kind of what I was going for when I originally created it. But because I kind of limited myself to like only using arrays, only using for loops, there are some simplifications here. For example, for each x value in the canvas, there's only 1 point. So in fact, there's exactly 1 point. So that point does fall, but you can't have like 2 points on top of each other, for example. Or you can't have 1 point at the top and 1 point sort of in the middle and a third point down the bottom, kind of all lined up with each other, because there's only a single point per x value in the canvas. And they kind of move randomly as well. Kind of makes it interesting, and that's kind of cool, but it also kind of looks kind of janky and kind of, I don't know, the animation's a little stuttered. And this is the real goal here. Once they hit the bottom, they reset at the top. And the idea I have stuck in my brain that I can't get out of my brain until I do it is, can I make them accumulate at the bottom so that over time it looks like snow is sort of filling the canvas? Maybe that's because I'm in California and I haven't seen snow in, I don't know when the last time I saw snow was. A year ago? Yeah, probably. Or if, maybe it's just an interesting challenge that I don't know how to do off the top of my head. But anyway, this is what's on my mind today. So as always, the way this is going to work is I'll just kind of sit here and code for an hour or so, and you're welcome to code along, or if you just want to kind of sit back and watch, that's cool too. I will post the resulting code at the end. So go get yourself a vegan eggnog or chocolate milk or a juice. I think today I'm drinking a chocolate peanut butter smoothie, like hippie drink. So I don't know if that's seasonal or not, but we're going to work with it anyway. Tastes good, so whatever. Anyway, what I'm doing is stalling for time while I think to myself, do I want to start with this code or do I want to start from scratch? And I think I'm going to start from scratch because this code does do, some of the things that I want to do, but I think the way that I'm going to have to do them will be different enough that I think this code will actually just slow me down once I get started. So I'm going to start with a new blank sketch. Oh, buttoned pepperberry. That's fun. It's just random, but it's cute. Yeah, so this is the P5 editor, where on the left I have my code editor. I have a play button, and if I click that, then it runs my code, and I see the result over here on the right. Right now it's just a blank, empty canvas by default, which has this kind of boring gray color, and now we can build on that. So I want to eventually have something that looks kind of like this. So I could draw like random points, but I don't really want the points to be completely random. I want them to be I want them to have X and Y, and I want them to move and stuff. So I think what I'll eventually do is have an array. I could do a 2D array, I think, and have like each cell in the grid be maybe like true or false, and that decides like whether there's a flake in it or not, which would maybe help me accumulate down at the bottom. But I am guessing that there's probably a better way to do that. I thought about it a little bit on my walk today. But I think there's a way to do it where I use a single array, but the values in that array are objects, which will then contain an X and a Y. So I don't think I need to track the whole grid, because what I care about is the points inside that grid, not each individual cell. We're going to see if that actually ends up working, but that's my instinct. So there's a couple ways I could do that. So I know that I want to create an array for show. So I'm going to start with that. Let's call it like snowflakes maybe, and it's an empty array. Now what do I want to put in that array? I could create an object using like this like object notation where I do like X equals whatever and Y equals whatever. Or I think P5 probably comes with something that I can use. So I'm going to go to the P5 reference, and my computer is yelling at me for some reason. Hopefully you can't hear that too much. There's a vector class in here. So I think I can call this create vector function and give it an X and a Y, optionally a Z, but I'm not going to make three-dimensional snow. That's on you to add a third dimension. I ain't going to get into that. But anyway, that gives me a reference to this class, or a reference to an instance of this class, and I can then do stuff with it. I think what I'll end up doing is working directly with the X and Y, but it has other functions that might come in handy. We'll see. But anyway, all that to say, I think what I'm going to do is have a for loop that iterates some number of times. This is mostly just for testing. So let's say, I don't know, 10 or so. So let I equals 10, I equals 0, I is less than 10, and then I plus plus. And so this loop will iterate 10 times. And here, what am I going to do? I'm going to say like snowflakes dot push, I think the function is. And in here, I'm going to call the create vector function. And the parameters I'm going to give it are what? Maybe random of width and random of height, I think. So clean that up a little bit. Oh my goodness. P5. Okay. So I'm pushing 10 times to my snowflakes array, and I'm creating a vector with a point that has an X value, which is kind of randomly from 0 to width, and a Y value that's randomly from 0 to height. All right. I think that kind of makes a certain amount of sense. And right now, if I run it, nothing will change because I'm not actually drawing the points in my array yet. So let's do that. So here I'm going to use a slightly different kind of a for loop because I don't actually care about the index. So I'm going to say const snowflake, I'll call it, of snowflakes. Iterate over each element in the array without worrying about the index. And what do I want to do here? I think I want to maybe just draw a point to start with, and I'll say snowflake dot x, snowflake dot y, sure. And let's run this and see what breaks. Okay, so I think that works. It's teeny tiny because it's just a point, but you can kind of see it. I don't know if you'll be able to see it in the video, but I can see it here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and there's the 10th one there. So that part's working, and that's cool. But it's not snow, clearly. So first of all, I don't know, there's a few things I could do. Let's maybe make them fall. So I'll say like snowflake dot y plus plus. maybe. And so that should make the points fall over time. Yeah, there they go. Again, I don't know if you can see them because they're so tiny. Maybe what I'll do is maybe draw them a little bigger. Yeah, okay. So now they're squares. Maybe they should be circles. Yeah, whatever. I'm definitely going to change how they look and stuff, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it. So now I have my snowflakes, which right now are just circles kind of falling. A few things I can do from here. I could make them look more like snowflakes. Right now they're just circles. I think I want them to be kind of smaller dots. I think I might just end up using the point function again, but I wanted to make it kind of make sure that it was visible on the video. The other thing I could do is play with them accumulating down at the bottom of the screen. I think what I'll do is I'll start with I'll start with what they look like, which is usually not what I would do, but I think that what they look like or how I draw them will change how I do the accumulation. So accumulating a bunch of circles is probably going to be different than accumulating a bunch of squares or a bunch of points or whatever, a bunch of triangles if you're feeling like triangles. But anyway, I think it's going to change how I accumulate it. So I'm going to work on the look first and then the accumulation second, because there's kind of that dependency there. So a few things I could do. One that is very obvious to me is I'm going to change the background. Maybe it's black. Maybe it's like a shade of like gray, which I think is probably what I used over here. Yeah, here I did a shade of gray. 32 is one of my go-tos, but I think maybe I'll do like a shade of blue, like dark blue, really dark blue. Yeah, okay. I'm trying to, one of the things I've learned while making these videos is I spend way too much time just messing around with parameters that don't really affect the overall code, but are kind of small details that I get obsessed about. And honestly, it's kind of fun, but it's also not super interesting or not super fun to watch or helpful, especially because you can pause the video and play with your own parameters here and figure out exactly what color you want to use, and that's kind of the fun. So anyway, all that to say, I'm not going to spend too much time obsessing over it. I'm just going to say dark blue, good enough for now. But if you're feeling interested in that, go ahead and play around with your own background colors. But I'm good with that for now. So I've got my 10 flakes. Maybe I'll increase that let's increase it quite a bit to like 100. And you can kind of see that there's some overlap. There's multiple flakes kind of in a row. It's all kind of random, so it's hard to see. But if you compare it to what the previous version looked like, each one is there's rules about where each one can show up, so they can't be on top of each other and stuff. Whereas over here, it's a lawless land, and snow can fall wherever it pleases. I think I'm going to change this back to point, though. Point is, I don't want them to be big circles. I want them to be small little snowflakes. Where'd they go? I think, right, so I need to change my stroke color to, I think that I want this to be just pure white. Again, you can make your snow any color you want. This is gross. So this is a bug in P5, or I don't know if you would call it a bug. I call it a bug. It's a quirk of P5 where points are anti-aliased, and I don't think I can turn it off with no smooth. Let's try it actually. No smooth. I don't think this is going to work. Yeah, no, it doesn't, but that's fine. So I'm going to cheat a little bit here and say rectangle of blah, 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 1 and 1. So I'm just going to draw a little 1 by 1 rectangle, and now they'll be brighter. It's just a weird quirk of P5. But instead of drawing a pixel, I'm going to draw a rectangle, which is 1 pixel by 1 pixel, just to make sure that they show up kind of nicely. Anyway, okay, so that's working, and it looks kind of like snow. I could still make this kind of fall randomly, maybe random 5 or so. Could give each one its own speed. Maybe that's what I'll end up doing, but I think for now I'm going to say they're going to fall at the same speed just by 1. So a couple things I want to do. One, I want to, I want more snow to fall. Like I don't want to just have one very quick blizzard and then it goes away completely. But I think maybe more importantly, I want it to accumulate down the bottom. So how do I want to do that? This is where the project gets interesting. This is kind of why I've had it stuck in my head for a while now, because I don't know how to do it off the top of my head. So again, I could do a 2D array, but I think that's overkill. I think what I'll end up doing actually is having another array, const, what do I want to call this? Maybe like ground equals, and I'll call that empty array. Yeah, okay. And what I want to do is maybe I'll have another for loop for let I equals 0, I is less than, in this case, width. Yeah, I think so, I++. Maybe I should say x here, since that's basically what it is. Yeah, let's do that. So I'm calculating the x coordinate of my ground, which is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, all the way up to width, which in the case is 400. So I'm going to have some value for each element in that sort of ground array. And what do I want that to be? So I either want it to be 0 or height, I'm pretty sure. Let's go with, I don't know, what do you think? It's kind of personal preference. This is one of those things where there's kind of a subjective side to code where there's not a better answer here, I don't think. It kind of just is up to how your brain organizes the information. So like what I want is an array that represents the height of my ground, so like the position of my ground. And do I want to say that, as my snow accumulates, do I want to say that the ground at that particular point, or at that particular element, or at that particular x coordinate, do I want to say that ground is this many pixels from the top, or do I want to say it's this many pixels from the bottom? P5 tends to use like from the top, so maybe that's what I'll go with. So here I'll say height, kind of sticking with the P5 approach, but you could go with anything. Yeah, but I think I'm gonna go with that, and so far nothing has changed. I'll still just show my points falling, but here's where the magic is going to happen. Well, here's where I hope the magic happens. More likely, here's where I'm going to start breaking stuff. But I think what I want to do is when I'm drawing a snowflake, what I want to do is check whether that snowflake has fallen like to the ground. So what I'll do is say if my snowflake.y is greater than or equal to, in this case, because I'm using height, ground of, well, now I am going to, wait, ground of what? Oh, ground of my snowflake.x. I'm guessing there's going to be an issue with this in a second, but for now, just think about it in terms of like, if the y of my snowflake has fallen sort of below the ground level of where my snowflake is in the sort of x coordinate from 0 to width, then what? Then I want to do something. I want to what? I want to say ground snowflake.x. I want to change that. I want to make the ground grow by some number. In this case, that will actually be subtracting it, because I'm saying that the ground starts out at height, which means that it'll be all the way down at the bottom, and over time it'll rise to the top. So I'm actually going to subtract 1, I guess, here. Okay, yeah. And that's kind of a lot already, but I also want to reset my snowflake.y. So I want to, when my snowflake reaches the ground, I want to grow the ground, kind of accumulating the snowflake, and then I want to pop my actual snowflake back up to the top. Otherwise, I'm guessing that bad things will happen. I think the ground would just grow and grow and grow. I'm guessing this won't work. I tend to bet against myself, and I think there's some issues that I can imagine happening, but let's just run it and see what happens. So, all right, well, my snow is falling. That's beautiful. But it is not accumulating, and it's not resetting to the top. So that's not so beautiful. And I think it's because of this array index. So I am creating my snowflakes at random points in my canvas space. So from 0 to width, which includes numbers like 5.55555 or 67.1234789, whatever. So it includes decimals. But my array, I think weird stuff is going to happen with indexing into an array with a decimal. So I think what I want to do is convert that into, like, just chop off the decimal, which is the floor function, and I can read more about it, but I've used it before, so I kind of remember. But if you're new to this, you can read more here. But what I'm going to do is say floor of snowflake.x. Yeah, and I'm going to have to do that twice, which is kind of gross, but whatever. Okay, so now I'm flooring the x value, kind of converting it from a random pixel to an index array just by chopping off the decimal. So if it was 3.14159, whatever, it'll just be 3. Okay, let's see if that does anything. Nope. Heavens no. Let's see if there's any errors. I don't see any. I legit thought that would work. Oh, I'm so silly. So if you're following along, you might have guessed this, but I don't actually draw my ground. I don't actually do anything with that. But I think that if I stare really hard at this, if I squint, I think I can see that the pixels are kind of popping off, like, before they hit the actual bottom of the canvas, which I think means that my logic is working here now, but I'm just not drawing my ground. So okay. Let me do something like what? Oh man, what do I want to do? How do I want to draw my line, or my ground line? Because it's not just a single line; it's a bunch of different values. So I'm drawing my snowflakes. Let's maybe draw the ground down here. So let's see. What I might try at first is, so I've got my ground X. Let's maybe draw, I could just draw a line. Let's try that. Line. So from X, ground X to X height. Does that feel right to you? I don't know. But let's just see what it looks like. Okay. Maybe. I can sort of see it. It's a little goofy. Oh, and okay, here's one thing I'm going to do. Well, just to kind of make everything a little easier, is I'm going to do a thing that's kind of cheating. So what I want to do is speed up the animation, but my computer kind of limits, or I don't know if P5 limiting or my browser, something limits it to 60 frames a second, which is what we're looking at now. So to cheat, what I'm going to do is maybe just temporarily redefine a draw function and have a loop in here. So for let I equals 0, I is less than, I don't know, 100, I plus plus. And in here, what I'm going to do is, what do I want this to be like? I don't know, draw a frame, maybe. I'm likely going to delete this code, so it's just throw away, but it's just kind of a hack to speed up my animation. Yeah, but you can actually kind of see it already. So my ground is indeed accumulating, So that's cool. But it's accumulating in these like weird 1 pixel at a time towers, um, which is happening because when I reset my snowflake, when a snowflake reaches the bottom, when it reaches the ground, I pop that snowflake back to the top, but I pop it to the same position, the same X position anyway. So, based on the randomness of the initial layout, some X coordinates have multiple snowflakes in them. So, like, I don't know, maybe here's an example of there's 3 in a row, 1, 2, 3. So that you can see that this ground is growing quite a bit faster than the others, and some of them don't have any flakes in them, so they're not growing at all. So that's clearly not right. But let's see what happens if I let's test out this hacky sped up version of it. Oh my god, that's so fast. Okay, this is 100 times faster. That's obviously way too fast. But you can see over time that's what the ground is going to look like, and that's not right. So what I want to do is I think I want to reset the X position right here. Snowflake.x equals random width. So I'm giving it a random X position, which is anywhere from 0 all the way up to width, so that once it reaches the bottom, it resets to the top, but it also resets kind of horizontally, so that we don't have those weird like 1 pixel lines anymore. But we'll see. So it's still ridiculously sped up. It's still at 100 times the animation speed, which is making my fans go really loud. But it is indeed accumulating. I don't know if I love this or not, to be honest with you. But that's okay. That's a good part of the fun. There's also a weird artifact, I think, where I think the line is anti-aliased as well. So this is ending up being gray. I wonder if I can. I already called no smooth. Yeah, this is a common bug that I encounter quite often. So what I might do is do I want to call a rectangle here? Maybe do another cheat where I say, draw me a rectangle from X, ground X, with a width of 1. Yeah, and a height of, this is going to get kind of gross, but I think I want height minus ground of X. Maybe this would have been a reason to represent my ground differently, but it's okay. Like, to represent it as, instead of starting at height and going to 0, maybe it should have started at 0 and gone down to height, but it's okay. Subtraction is okay. We'll get through it. I don't know how I feel about it, but the only thing I want to test is my ground brighter? That's what I'm hoping that this line does, and I think I can say that it is. Now, I'm staring at it, and all right, I think I've convinced myself that the ground is brighter, and that's good. I don't love how the snow is accumulating though. Like, it's up to the power of random, but you're going to get these, like, I don't know. That's not what snow looks like in nature. I don't know. Maybe if you're a meteorologist, you can tell me that in fact there's a town in Alaska where the snow falls exactly like this. I would love to learn all about that town in Alaska. Please tell me. But for my purposes, that's kind of not what I had in mind. But I'm trying to think of like how I would want to fix that, or whether I want to fix it. Maybe the way I fix it is to make it more interesting, maybe more interactive. Maybe I'll look into that. But I think I've convinced myself that the ground animation is working. So let me maybe take this down, maybe to 10, maybe. Ooh, yeah, that's quite a bit smoother. And actually, like, now that it's quite a bit smoother, I think I like the ground accumulation a lot more. You you can kind of see the flakes adding up to the ground. And, you know, I wonder if I take it all the way back down to the default, I wonder if I'll like it even more. And I think I actually do. So I think maybe my hatred of those random lines was an artifact of my actual hatred of the snow falling too fast. I think when they fall slowly enough that you can kind of see that, hey, this flake fell and now it's on the ground. I think I like that a lot more. Okay. All right. I don't hate it anymore. Delete the last 5 minutes. I don't have an editor and I'm too lazy to actually edit my videos, so I'm not going to do that. But instead, I'll just apologize for going down random rabbit holes. But you know, that's part of creative coding, is finding these rabbit holes, going down them, and coming back up. And sometimes it was pointless. Anyway, I don't hate this. This seems cool. This gets pretty dang close to what I set out to do. I think that over time, this will accumulate, and it is accumulating. I think that's pretty good. I might play with the idea of making it interactive. I think maybe that's the last thing I'll do. So, how do I want to do that? I'm kind of nerd stuck with myself in the brain. The other thing I might do is maybe make them fall at different speeds. Yeah, let's play with interaction first. So what I'll do, first of all, I'm going to get rid of this hacky making everything go faster. You know, I'm going to keep it in there for now just in case I need it, but I'm going to delete it at the end. But do I want to always start with the same number, 100? Is that the right number to start with? It seems fine. Another way to speed up the animation is just to add more snowflakes. So now there's 1,000. I actually don't hate that at all. You know, that's pretty cool. I think that's more evidence that I should make them fall at different speeds, but one thing at a time. I think what I want to do is when the user clicks, I add a point. Let's see how we feel about that. I think it's relatively doable too, based on how I'm doing this. So I don't want to do it in, it's going to get gross, because I don't want to do it in this draw frame function, because that's going to be tied to how fast I make it. And I don't want to add like, maybe I do. You know what? I'm going to stop talking to myself. I'm just going to try something. Right here, what I want to do is maybe like if mouse pressed, or in P5 it's mouse is pressed. So if the mouse is pressed, I'm holding down my mouse button, then what? Then what I want to do is I'll do snowflakes.push. It's going to be a very similar line to up here, but instead of giving it a random value, what I'll do is I'll create a vector at mouse x, mouse y. I think that might be all I need. Let's find out. Okay, so I've still got my animation. Nothing is breaking too horribly. So let me maybe click my mouse. That's funny. Okay. yeah. Okay. I mean, oh, that's cool. You can kind of see that, like, all right, so what's happening is I'm just holding my mouse in for like a second or so. And because I'm adding a new snowflake every frame, that ends up being just a bunch of snowflakes just directly on top of each other, which, you know, maybe is cool, but probably isn't what I'm going for. But like, watch, like, as my snowflakes reach the ground, they all reset at the top to the same kind of Y position. So you see these like horizontal artifacts as well, which, you know, that's an artifact of how I'm doing my animation, but it's probably not what I want. Let's see what happens if I like kind of make it horizontal myself. So if I move my mouse, and yeah, that's quite a bit better if I have that kind of effect. So I don't want to let the user just kind of click their mouse here. How do I want to do that? One way I could do it is maybe I'll try to limit the animation sort of speed here. So what I want to do here, like frame count, mod, what, like 10 or so. So like every 10th frame, I'll add a snowflake. Let's try that, see how that feels. Yeah, so you can kind of see that like now they're kind of spaced out a little bit more. they're still all just in the same like X position. They're spaced out enough that you can't really, you don't see the horizontal artifact anymore, so that's nice. Let's see, how does it feel if I do like the, it doesn't feel as good with that limiting when I'm moving my mouse to the left and right. So, instead what I might do, this might be weird. I think processing, or P5 here, has a variable that keeps track of the previous mouse. Yeah. Okay, so what I'll do is actually I'll force the user to move their mouse just a little bit. So I'll say if mouse is pressed and mouse what? Is it mouse X or mouse Y? Mouse X. It's going to be mouse X is what, not equal to P mouse X. Then I draw a point, or add a new snowflake. So, okay, always just check that nothing broke. Doesn't look like anything broke. So I'm going to click. I'm going to hold in my mouse button actually, and my cursor is kind of, oh, this is kind of goofy. I see why this is. So I move my mouse and then I stop my mouse. Which means that mouse X and P mouse X are the same, which means that I'm not going to add a snowflake. Now, if I move my mouse, I think I will start adding snowflakes. Yeah, okay. I don't love that, I don't think. I mean, I like this effect. Like, I do like that I need to move my mouse, but I also don't like that when I click, there's not like this immediate like, oh, you added a point. You have to drag your mouse. I mean, maybe that's okay. Yeah, maybe it's okay. Maybe I'll just include that in the instructions. Since I'm basically saying dragged, I think another way that I can do this is to say function mouse dragged, and then I'll put this here. I think basically P5 is doing the same thing behind the scenes, but this allows me to sort of simplify my code. So now I am no longer keeping track of like exactly whether I'm dragging or not. I'm just relying on P5's mouse drag function, which, let's see. Oh, maybe this will actually take care of the original problem too. No, it doesn't. Okay, wait, did it? No. If I click, no. Ooh, I have an idea. Okay, but let's just first test this. So mouse dragged, I can add points. I think that there's still something kind of goofy happening. So like I can maybe just, am I adding multiple points on like in the same position? I think I am. But do I care? I think I don't care actually, because I think it's fine. Yeah, it's fine. But I think there's a fix to the problem of like I have to drag my mouse and I can't click it. I think I'll do something extremely similar. I think I'll just have a mouse press function. Yeah, I'll just steal this code. Sure. Could maybe put that in its own function or something like that, but whatever. Okay, I feel pretty okay about that. So now I can press my mouse and I add a point immediately. Cool. All right, I can add a single point. I can also drag my mouse, and that's cool too. All right, I feel pretty dang good about that. Okay, through the power of video editing and time travel, I usually don't cut out any sections of these code along videos, because I think that it's important to demonstrate the various rabbit holes that you go down when you're coding and debugging and all of that stuff. So what just happened is I started playing around with what happens when you do this, where you drag your mouse and you kind of build your snow tower, kind of recreating the artifact that we saw earlier. And long story short, there's some weird issues with it. So specifically what happens is, even if you do, let me start over, even if you do something like this, where you're kind of moving the the mouse left and right, and you would maybe expect all of the ground to build up kind of at the same speed in that section. You'll get these weird like single pixel spikes, and the pixel right next to it will never be filled, which really confused me. But after like 20 or 30 minutes of debugging this problem, I realized that it was just a problem with my mouse. It was an issue with my mouse speed. So my mouse speed is quite high because I don't know, I've used this computer for long enough that I can kind of put my trackpad wherever. Anyway, my mouse speed is very high. So what that means is that even when I'm moving my mouse kind of slowly, my mouse will skip over pixels. And it's, I guess, like always the same number of pixels actually. So even if I move it as slow as I can, it's still moving at least 2 pixels. So I'm always skipping over basically the same pixels, which leads to those artifacts where it's like single spikes and then nothing, and then single spike and then nothing, and single spike and nothing. There are some fixes for this that I started to explore, but they're not super interesting. They're not super interesting with what I wanted to do, and honestly just kind of made for a grouchy video. So instead, I think I'm going to say that I actually don't care. I don't care about this kind of corner case, which, it's my code. It's up to me what corner cases I care about. And I'm going to say I don't care. If you wanted to look into that, you might do something like, I don't know, like a rolling average or something, where instead of drawing the ground at that value, you take the average of the 10 closest neighbors or something, and that would also make your ground be quite a bit smoother as well. But for me, I think I'm not going to worry about it too much. I just saved you a half an hour of me being grumpy and figuring out that it was my mouse's fault. So there we go. All right, so where am I? I think I'm going to close this out soon. I think the only other thing I might want to play with is the idea of moving the snowflakes kind of horizontally. So right now they all fall at the same speed, or maybe horizontally, or maybe different speeds. So maybe I can bring back this value of like plus equals random of, I don't know, 5 or so. So bring this idea back where they're different speeds. And no, I don't know. I don't think I like that. I don't think that looks like snow. I think snow should always, or each snowflake should always fall at the same speed. Now different snowflakes, maybe different snowflakes should fall at different speeds, but for each snowflake, I think it should fall at the same speed. So what I'm going to maybe play with is, I know that this create vector function, create vector, takes can take a z, and you can use it for really anything you want. I'm using them for x and y, but I think what I'm going to say is that z is actually the speed. Let's just play with that. Let's see how we feel. So what I'll do is say create vector random width, random height, and then random of, I don't know, 5 or so. And how do I want to format this? I don't know if I want to keep this code either, so let's just do it that way. And I need to do that somewhere else up here. So this is maybe evidence that I should have put this in its own function, but that's okay. Random of 5 again. Okay, so now whenever I create a new snowflake, I'm giving it this kind of z value, which I'm not using as a z value. I'm using as a speed. So what do I want to change here? I want to change here snowflake y plus equals snowflake dot z. Sure. And let's just see what that feels like. So now every snowflake has a random speed. I think I like it. It's a little annoying that I have to change it in 3 different places if I want to change it. So maybe what I'll do is I'll create a variable, maybe like slow snowflake min speed, maybe min speed equals maybe 1 const max speed equals 5, and now I can say random min speed max speed. So I'm trying to, some of these are real slow, and I don't like that. So I want to give them a minimum speed. And now my code's getting real messy, as it does, as it tends to. Min speed, max speed, you know, and maybe it's different. So like maybe when you're dragging, they are actually faster or something like that. But for me, I'm just gonna make them all the same speed, max speed, or the same range of speed anyway. Gross, fine, okay. So now they should be a little bit faster. Yeah, okay, cool. And if I drag and stuff, yeah, okay. I don't hate it. Let's kind of think about what it looks like as it hits the ground. Yeah, okay. I think that's fine. Do I need one more? No, I don't, because all I do is this. Okay. So I could reset the speed up here as well, but I don't think it matters. But okay, I think I like that. Yeah, you kind of only notice the slower ones, but whatever, I think it's fine. So this does pretty much what I set out to do. I'm pretty happy with this. The grouchy half hour that I edited out, notwithstanding, I think this is pretty close to what I had in mind. Now, I'm very tempted to explore the idea of smoothing this ground out by taking maybe a rolling average. So right now, the y position of my ground is based directly on the value that's in the array at that sort of x coordinate, at that element or at that index in the array. But what you could do instead, and I think maybe I'll just mention how I would do it instead of spending the next 15 minutes actually coding it up, because this code's already pretty complicated for what I was trying to do. I'll just maybe talk through it. If you are interested in making the ground be smoother, then what you might do is for a particular index, let's say index 200, rather than thinking of the ground as being at that value, what you would do to kind of smooth it out is take what's called a rolling average. I think it's called a rolling average. I don't actually know that. I think it's rolling average, which means that you take, there's different ways to do it, but what I would probably do is take, say, the 5 neighbors to its left and the 5 neighbors to its right and average all of them up, and that's your value for that particular index. So you can imagine that makes this kind of spike here, that spike would go down because its neighbors are kind of shorter. And if you look at like one of these valleys here, the valleys would go up because its neighbors are kind of taller. So it kind of evens it out a little bit, and you might end up with, maybe a more realistic ground cover of snow rather than this kind of pixelated version, where you get things like this where, either through the power of my mouse movement settings and the power of random, there's just not a lot of snowfall in this microclimate here. So if you want to smooth those artifacts out, you might take the rolling average instead. So that might be a fun thing to play with, and it would be one extra for loop whenever you get the y position out of the array. Maybe put that in a function or something. You can tell that I really want to do it because I'm just kind of nerd sniping myself. But this video is already too long, and I think it establishes a baseline, which is what I'm trying to teach myself, how to make these videos end on that note rather than ending on a note where I'm fiddling around with parameters for half an hour. So let's see. Let me just real quick clean this code up and maybe talk through it one more time. So I'm going to get rid of that hack where I was speeding up my my animation, and let me just run it. Let's just let it happen for a while. And okay, so what do? We first we have this for loop that creates 100 random snowflakes. And the snowflake has an X, a Y, and a Z, sort of a Z. We use the Z to hold the speed, but you can use it for anything you want. And then we also keep track of the ground. And the ground is an array that goes from 0 to width. So from 0 to width. So for each kind of X coordinate in the canvas, we record a value. And we start it at height. So we start it down here at the bottom. Okay, so that's our ground. Then in draw, what we do is we iterate over every snowflake, which is an X, Y, and Z in quotation marks though, point, and we move the point down based on speed, and then we draw it, just a 1 by 1 pixel, and then we say if my Y value for this snowflake is lower or greater than the ground at that particular X coordinate, or at that index in the array, then what I do is I move the ground up by 1, and I reset my snowflake back to the top at a random X coordinate as well. This is where I could change the speed, but it doesn't matter. Kind of personal preference. Then finally what we do is we draw the ground by drawing a bunch of rectangles down here at the bottom. So in this case, we're drawing 400 individual tiny little rectangles. Different ways to do this. You could maybe use the create, or what is it, vertex function, which is one of the things I did during the half hour that I'm editing out, because it ended up not being the fix for the problem. But you could play around with this if you're doing like the rolling average thing, maybe that's a better way to do it. But for me, I just drew rectangles. And then finally we made it interactive by adding a mouse pressed function and a mouse dragged function, which means that if the user either clicks or drags their mouse around, then they can add more snowflakes themselves. Cool. So that's kind of what I set out to do, and my brain's kind of fried from investigating that issue that ended up being my mouse settings. So I think I'm going to call it there, but there's a few things you could do next. So one thing I haven't played with at all is moving them kind of horizontally. So right here we say snowflake.y plus equals some number. You know, maybe it's something also like snowflake.x plus equals random something, I don't know, -5 to 5. Maybe it kind of goes left and right. I don't know what this will look like. Nope, I hate it. I hate it. That's not snow anymore. It's like weird bugs falling from the sky. That's creepy. You know, there's ways you can play with it. Maybe it's something like this, or maybe it's just -1 and 1, where, you know, maybe they move left and right. But for me, I think I'm going to just stick with the old standard. They're just falling and not moving left and right. There's no wind. But that's one thing you can play with. You can play with colors. Right now I just did like it's nighttime and it's snowing. I think maybe that's because that's what I'm nostalgic for. But, you know, your snow could be green. Your snow could be red. Don't make it yellow though. Or do, whatever. You could also play with like what happens when the snow gets too big. So like what happens when the snow goes off the top of the screen. Right now, I don't think much will happen. I think it'll just all be snow, and it just won't have any animation to it. It'll just be all white. But maybe you want to reset it, or maybe you want to, at that point, change the color and treat the old color as your background, or something like that, so that you could, you know, have it go longer than however long it takes to fill up a screen. You know, you could go back to the idea of the rolling average to even out that ground. I think that would be a really cool thing to do, and I'm so tempted to do it that if you end up doing it, please let me know. I would love to hear from you, because I'm really jealous of you for doing that. You know, you could also make this more of a winter scene, so like maybe add some trees or a snowman or a log cabin or a fire, you know, whatever your winter scene would contain. But for me, I think this got pretty close to what I set out to do, and I am sick of staring at a computer screen. So I'm going to say, if you enjoyed this, if you have coded along, or if you just want to take the code and do your own thing with it, cool. But please let me know. I'd love to hear from you either down in the comment section on YouTube, or even better, come to happycoding.io, come to our forum, and this is where I hang out. This is, where you can best reach me. And so, post what you've worked on, or if you have a question or anything like that, or, if you just want to say hi, I'd love to hear from you. But I think I'm pretty happy with my snow scene. So I'm going to just let it run for a while and space out. But thanks for watching. Have a great night. And as always, of course, happy coding.